position to take over as college football's reigning dynasty. Clemson, SC. The Orange Blazer only comes out of Dabo Swinney's closet a couple times a year, but a Wednesday that included five-star recruits finalizing their paperwork followed by a Clemson graduation event followed by practice for another college football playoff game was reason enough to start the day in celebratory attire. And just after 11 a.m., Swinney sat down at a table inside Clemson's practice facility, where a large black and gold banner signifying the 2016 national championship now hangs. Immediately, he was asked a question not about the looming Sugar Bowl matchup with Alabama but rather an offensive tackle named Jackson Carman, the #1 ranked recruit in Ohio, whom Clemson had just secured a commitment from moments earlier when he chose the Tigers over the in-state Buckeyes. Swinney looked back over his left shoulder toward longtime sports information director Tim Barrett, who advised him that the actual letter of intent had not yet come in. So Swinney had to pass on the question per NCAA rules, which is about the only way you can stop him from commenting on anything. More, winners and losers from the first day of the early signing period. More, can Alabama's offense keep pace with Clemson? But nevertheless, with about 6 minutes to go in the news conference, Barrett interrupted a question to inform Swinney that Carman's paperwork had come in. "Oh, we do?" Swinney said, breaking into a big smile. "Jackson Carman. Action Jackson. Let's go." Press conference, take 2. It was a perfect Swinney moment, goofy, endearing and yet quite representative of why the Tigers have transformed themselves from perceived one-hit wonder on the national stage to a program that stands on the precipice of altering college football history. #1 player in Ohio, #1 player in Florida, #1 player in South Carolina, #1 player in Georgia, Swinney said, succinctly describing Clemson's recruiting haul on Wednesday and the reach its brand now has across the country. By now, the message to the rest of college football is loud and clear. Clemson isn't going anywhere. The fall-off that was allegedly supposed to happen this season when the last group of superstars exited didn't materialize. The Tigers won the ACC again with almost an entirely different roster, made the playoff for the 3rd year in a row and, when healthy, have looked like the best team in the country over the balance of the season. Now here comes another group of recruits led by Trevor Lawrence, the top-ranked quarterback in the country out of Cartersville, Georgia, and the championship window is suddenly wide open again for the foreseeable future. In fact, Clemson's sustainability is such old news at this point, Swinney doesn't even bother anymore to push back on the tired narrative that his program is a fleeting power. What's changed is the fact we've done it over and over and over and over and won a lot of big games along the way, Swinney said. Now they can't say, "Well, you've been very consistent but you can't win a national championship." Well, yeah, we can. And not only did we win it, but we beat Alabama to do it. So you just kind of checked all the boxes and everybody can just kind of take a deep breath and realize we have a great program here and we're not going away. I don't care what coaches leave, what player leaves, it's not going to change. But what could change for Clemson, and for all of college football, will be determined on New Year's Day in a 3rd consecutive playoff matchup against the Crimson Tide. Now the stakes for Clemson aren't just about hanging another banner after a 35-year wait. What lies ahead is nothing less than an opportunity to change the way we talk and think about this entire era of the sport. The balance of power in college football can be a delicate, fleeting thing. Periods of dominance tend to burn hot, then fade. History tells us that half of the traditional blue bloods at any given time are ascending, while the other half are wandering in the wilderness before rising again. The current decade, of course, has been kindest to Alabama, a dynasty longer and more durable than its recent predecessors. And when you look back at the Nick Saban run of 4 national championships in 9 years, rewriting the modern history of the sport, there have been 3 major inflection points. 1. In 2009, Alabama beats Florida for the SEC title, simultaneously launching Saban to his first national championship at Alabama and effectively ending Urban Meyer's run with the Gators after it seemed like the two programs could have a long rivalry at the top. 2. Miles builds a machine at LSU that is practically Alabama's equal, but the Tide's dominant 21-0 victory in the 2011 national championship game, a rematch of LSU's earlier 9-6 victory that season, sends the Tigers into a spiral and solidifies Alabama's aura as a program without peer. 3. Ohio State beats Alabama in 2014 and goes on to win the first college football playoff, sparking a legitimate argument about whether Meyer might join or pass Saban in the greatest of all-time debate. At that point, Meyer had 3 titles to Saban's 4 and a preseason #1 team in 2015. Instead, Alabama wins another national championship that year and Meyer hasn't come close since, ending any notion they were part of the same conversation. More, new tax bill will impact sports starting with millions in costs for colleges. More, USA Today Sports college football staff picks for every bowl game. That's important context as we turn our focus to this year's playoff and what seems like a fourth historical marker in the era of Alabama. If Clemson wins a second consecutive national championship and beats the Tide 2 years in a row along the way, it would mean a legitimate claim to their own dynasty. It would mean Clemson making a serious run at Alabama as the program of the decade. It would mean Clemson, in college football's most stunning and impressive development in quite some time, becoming an equal in an era where it seemed Saban simply wouldn't allow any. It's the tiebreaker, linebacker Dorian O'Daniel said. Last season there was a lot of doubt in how we won games, how we got to the college football playoff. This year we've tried to leave no doubt. In a sense, maybe the perception change already happened regardless of the outcome in the Sugar Bowl. This will be the third consecutive year Alabama and Clemson have met in the playoff, and the first 2 games came down to coin flip margins, with each taking home a hard-fought national championship trophy. But to really be like Alabama, it's not just the outcome of a 60-minute football game, it's the benefit of the doubt that goes along with the brand. No matter who graduates or leaves Alabama for the pros or gets plugged in at quarterback, you just assume they're going to be in the mix every year until Saban decides he's had enough. This season, Clemson finally earned the right to be regarded the same way, having lost the best player in school history in quarterback Deshaun Watson as part of a complete roster overhaul while still motoring along as if nothing really changed. I feel like we've done it our own way. We've done it the Clemson way, star defensive lineman Christian Wilkins said. It's really a completely new team. That's just a testament to our program and our culture. Repeating as national champions would be the ultimate testament, as it's only been done a handful of times in the modern era. The playoff adds another hurdle, as programs now have to win 2 postseason games against elite opponents rather than just 1 bowl. On paper, this is the most evenly matched playoff field as both semi-final matchups currently have point spreads of less than a field goal. Alabama actually has been a slight favorite versus Clemson in Las Vegas. I know they're the 4 seed and this is supposed to be the easy draw, right? Swinney joked. But we're playing Alabama and when you play Alabama, there's a good chance you get beat. That's just life. Swinney was trying to make the point that for all the storylines about the Alabama-Clemson playoff trilogy and trying to go back-to-back, the outcome of one 60-minute football game won't change his view about where his program sits in the pecking order or what its future holds. And that's completely fair. Without knowing anything else about what's going to happen over the next 365 days, it wouldn't be one bit of a surprise if we're right back here next year talking about Alabama-Clemson in another playoff or a national championship game. That's how solid these 2 programs are, how far they've separated themselves from everyone else over time. But history is written by the winners, and Clemson has the opportunity to reshape a good portion of it by reaching arguably the most difficult accomplishment in all of sports. We've seen Alabama do it before, defensive end Clelin Ferrell said. We understand that obviously going back-to-back has been hard for a lot of other teams, but this is a new era. We feel like we're real young in the era, so why not us? The recent history of Alabama's would-be usurpers tells us it's never that easy. And as long and difficult of a road as Clemson traveled over Swinney's first 9 years to finally become national champions, the leap from there to generational program might be even longer. Even if it's only 2 wins away,